And on camera, he said he befriended Nicholas Rockefeller, who was a lesser Rockefeller. And even though he was a lesser Rockefeller, he would know what's going on. And he confided a lot with Aaron Russo, which Aaron Russo found quite frightening. But over dinner once, he just out of the blue said to Aaron, "Where do you think Women's Lib came from, the movement?" And Russo said, huh? He didn't even understand. How did that come up? And he said, "Well, what do you mean? I suppose it was like modernization and, equal rights." And Nicholas laughed and he said, "We had a huge part in funding that through media and multiple, organizations." And Russell says, "But why?" And he says, "Well, 50% of the workforce, we couldn't tax them." And he said, "Also, there's a lot of education of children happening. And we know we need the government to educate children." So they're pretty nasty people now. Now, that is anecdotal from Aaron Russo. There is not a documented reference for that as such. I'll be careful to point out, I only assert reference things. So the new world structure is G20, UN, and World Economic Forum largely at the top. And I think a lot of our puppeticians, the ones that get into power, are either helped into power by being a global leader or being affiliated, or indeed when they get in, they come to understand quite quickly who gives the orders. Politicians are smart. They understand, you got to go with what comes down from the UN and the EU, etc. So we have a challenge. And then 2019, September, I'll just check my time, the decade of action was declared. And Greta went to New York in a sailboat, and there was big fanfare and excitement. Of course, they knew it was going to be a decade of action. And within a few months in early 2020, we got to see some action. I guess we all lived through it, didn't we? So at least they stick to their word. And there was a lot of other stuff they talked about. New York, hilarious for anyone who doesn't know. In October 2019, Event 201. And this is a cliche. They said it was a conspiracy theory that this indicated some knowledge of the upcoming pandemic. Reuters fact-checked it, right? But the reality is they brought in ex-spooks, heads of media, and they simulated, and I'm not joking. They didn't just say, what if there was a big pandemic? The model was, what if there was a big novel coronavirus pandemic? And it's like, if you were there, you'd say, what do you mean, the next 20, 30 years? Well, even sooner, maybe. I mean, it's comical. It's comical. So they war-gamed it all, and they made sure that a lot of key people knew what would be needed. And what they talked about, the big theme, was misinformation and how we would have to control misinformation. They didn't talk about medical. Didn't worry about that. So they kind of wear their heart on their sleeve. World Economic Forum, Bill and Melinda funded that big operation in October 2019, and there was a similar one in Germany and other countries, but they all linked back to the mothership, as they always do. So we're going to go full circle, end this segment. Again, for the fascist, everything is the state. Everything is the control structure. So in this case, it's not really the state, though you could say it's State Department, CIA, WEF, elite organizations. There's no point trying to get into detail. I think it's just important that you guys at least understand the geopolitical history, where it came from, and largely the important organizations.